Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is the returning guest. His name is Nur Sharif, and today we're going to discuss his works and life as a writer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Why did you want to be on the show?
Basically, I wanted to be on the show to basically talk about my life as a writer and to also long talk about my creative work as well and my creative work in progress.
Okay. Why this show? Why not other shows? You've been on the show a few times now.
I think it's
Why
because
here?
like this. I think this show is like quite inspiring and like it gets a good message out, especially with mental health and generally with creative work as well.
hmm When you talk about messages, what are you trying to do with your writing? Let's start there.
Okay, so basically, my main theme of writing is I like to write stories about humanity, people, society, and I guess my main message is to if like my stories, if it can resonate with one or two people along the way, like for example, like inspire them. So basically, I feel like this current work in progress that I'm working on, which is the crime fiction, it covers themes of mental health. As well, so basically, and hoping that that people who are dealing with the similar issues or going through with mental health on a day-to-day basis, if they could, connect with this character, it can maybe inspire them, hopefully.
And why is that important to you?
I think it's important to me because mental health is something I've always dealt with, or probably throughout my whole life and stuff. And obviously, I know what it's like to, when you don't have anyone to talk to, and then the only people to talk to is like your characters and to express yourself in a creative outlet.
Okay. Um, What's the story behind your kind of general creative vision when you sit down and you write? What's what's your process, if you like?
Okay, so basically process is that basically I like to do my look at like basic real world issues around the world. I like to do like when I do my research, I like to look at other for some real life cases that happen around the world and stuff. So I'll just use an example for the crime fiction. So basically, since there's like a murder case about unsolved murder, and so to do in-depth research, I looked at real life serial killer transcripts. I looked at, and I think the true crime writer, his the main inspiration came from a real life criminologist who actually came to my university and who did like a talk there. His name is John Douglas, and he interviewed people like Charles Manson, Richard Ramirez, and like those the key murderers and stuff. And I was like, when he gave the talk and stuff, it was so inspiring as well because at that time my original plan was okay, I'm gonna go into criminology, but then when looking back at it and stuff, I thought, wait, for this true crime writer, because in the character he's meant to be someone who's meant to be have the greatest mind in criminology. He's meant to be someone highly intelligent. I thought, what he's based it on this guy, like he has he's basically was like who I visioned when I wrote about this the true crime writer in my crime fiction and
Okay.
stuff.
I mean, this is going to sound like a pretty obvious question, but I think it was just important to write it 'cause it's just intriguing. What do you think could be gained from reading, like serial killer accounts, like reading in their own words, or like reading transcripts, etc. Like, for example, you mentioned Charles Manson there. Like, what could be learned from a killer like that as far as it pertains to writing true crime?
That's a really good question. I think what we could get from that is basically like what I like to apply is that it's like you get like understand the minds of these killers. For example, like you it's like you imagine yourself, you walk into these killers, how they think, how they feel, and then it gives it like a more realistic approach to it, like what goes inside real life killers, mindset and stuff. And then when you apply that to, for example, into fictional work and stuff, or for example, when you create like a fictional, write about fictional killer and stuff, it gives you brings a more realistic approach because when you look at the real model for real life cases.
You just stopped there. Are you nervous?
Huh?
You
Yeah, so,
nervous?
yeah, yeah,
Why are
slightly,
you
yeah,
so nervous? You've been on the show a few times, man. What's wrong?
yeah. I don't know. So, yeah, feels different this time.
I promise you, man, you're not under the fucking spotlight. I'm not like
Yeah,
it's not like three strikes and you're out.
yeah.
For those who are wondering, off camera, I said to Nur, I have less questions prepared because it was a lot harder to put a show together when you've interviewed this person thoroughly several times before, and they come to you with like not a lot to work with. No offense there. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fine. Yeah.
loads of people have done that with me, and I've had to think of something. um, but here's the thing, though, right? If the other person, I've always said this as well. If the other person is willing to have a conversation, then you'll always have a show.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, and that's why I'm saying, relax, dude. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're doing good. We're doing well.
Yeah.
Like the worst guest I ever had, right? Because I just did the 300 questions thing and the celebrated 300 episodes, right? And one of the questions
Yeah.
was worst guests, and there was two, but one in particular, and the reason why he was the worst guest, he was a writer from America. It's just fucking one word answers. So I would say like, I mean, case in point, you're both writers. If I said to you, okay, what inspires you to write? That's a long question. That's a long
Yeah.
answer. Do you know what I mean? That'll be like childhood memories. That'll be like old inspirations. That'll be like feeling. There's like several different layers to that. His response was just like, yeah, I just like to write, Oh, great. Thanks. Fucking brilliant. Thanks for that, mate. Yeah, fantastic. This was a great show. Like, I did a couple of clips, like 5-minute clips. That's when I used to do clips, and I said when the show came out, like, and I don't normally bury my own stuff, but like I'll hold my hands up when something's shit, and I really wondered about whether or not I should put it out, and I just said those 5 minutes. That's the only 5 minutes worth listening to. But I mean, it's a learning curve, isn't it? Like, whenever I get someone on the show that's like not talking or not giving me anything, I call them out on it now.
Yeah.
Episode 301, which hasn't come out now, but it will be out by the time this is out, like long since. So the guy was called Matt Lexic, content creator who was returning to content creation, but I could tell he's like myself, he's dealt with a lot of frustrations and just kind of the difficulties of it and how it wears you down. And the thing is, like, it can make you feel like you don't give a fuck anymore. And this is something that we can definitely talk about, because I know you've expressed this frustration before. When you're dealing with something that you love and you've been doing it for years and it's just not working out, and you get disillusioned, you get frustrated, you get upset, you get depressed, you get this, that, and the other, right?
Yeah.
It can make you feel a bit like, what's the fucking point?
Yeah.
And the problem is, there's always a point, but you've got to find it. That's the test. Things often won't go your way or the way you want them to go. Things are always out of your control. I mean, as soon as you can accept that things are out of your control, life gets infinitely better, because then now you're just focused on you and what you need to do, right? For example, you've often said that people around you have said things like, let's pack it in, man. What are you doing? Like, just forget about this writing shit. Forget about this stuff. And it's like, you can't, because it's you. It's who you are. Do you know what I mean? It's like with me, people have said that to me, like, Christian, you should get a real job. Have you never just thought about getting a job where you could just have the weekends off? Have you never just, wouldn't it be easier? And I'm like, life is not supposed to be easy.
Yeah.
And when I did do all that corporate shit, guess what? It was a fucking nightmare, and I hated it. Why? Because I can't do playground politics like you guys might, but I can't sit there and do this whole bitching behind people's backs crap. Like, the way I was brought up is, if there's a problem, you fucking tell the person, whether that be professional, personal, whatever, right? You don't go walk around like plotting, do you know what I mean? Which is what workplaces seem to be. Like, you sit in your fat ass in a chair all day, or on a computer, but somehow it's like Game of Thrones in there, and everyone's just fucking trying to attack each other. And I'm like, what is this shit, man? I just came here to work, not to just have an argument with everybody. So that's what the workplace has to offer, right? And then you go to like different mediums, whatever, hospitality, sales, recruitment. It's all the same shit.
Yeah.
to take walking it back to us creatives. I mean, look, it's not perfect in the creative sphere, but I'll tell you what, at least it's something coming from you and not bullshit coming from others. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you sit down, you write, it's therapeutic,
Hmm.
it makes you feel better. Maybe only like two people are going to see it, but fuck it, like that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
You know,
That,
yeah, I don't know, man. I think ultimately it's got to be like, you know, you're doing stuff for you, you
yeah.
know. So let's bring it back to you. So do you feel better?
Yeah. Feel
There you
but
go.
yeah.
There you go. So yeah. What's your overall goal with writing? Why bother?
I think about so that's a, yeah, I actually really like that question because I think my overall goal, and I actually, obviously tell people, obviously some people even laughed at this, dream and goal, but at the
Really?
end of the day, but it's like I tell people, one of my obviously it's gonna be a lot of hard work and dedication to get there, but I strongly believe I could, I'm prepared to get through every storm to get there. My dream eventually is to work and write and work for films, like create my own films and also well create the stories for it because I always felt I was a storyteller. And I think because that's what I love about like theater writing and theater productions, because it's like it's like basically it's like a it's like you're writing for film, but just like a different type of medium. It's like a live on stage because and you have like a one chance to grab the audience attention. It's like you dive deep into the mind, and like, for example, if you wanted them to create suspense, you could they could go away. Wow, that's a shocking, unexpected twist. They weren't expecting that, and I'm hoping that with this well, crime fiction stuff, because obviously I've obviously told one or two people about the twist and stuff who I trust, but it's like when they find out about the unexpected twist and what actually leads to it and stuff, and it's like I'm hoping that the suspense will it's something that will blow people's mind away because that's what I'm hoping to create a psychological effect that will make you question everything.
Sounds I love the idea, man. It's exciting to hear. I will say something you said there, like, well, people laughing. Like, what I've noticed over the years is everyone's laughing at you until you know shit starts working out, and
Yeah,
suddenly they're fucking silent,
yeah,
fucking
yeah,
silent. Don't hear nothing from them. Someone I remember a few years ago said to me, "Your biggest fans are most likely your biggest haters."
yeah.
And it's true. It's true. I know that there's people that check out my Instagram stories that fucking hate my guts. But guess what? Keep watching, fans. Keep enjoying it, man.
Yeah,
The more it fucks you off, the better. I love that. Yeah, good. Because guess what? That bitterness don't affect me. It'll destroy you. And I speak from experience as well. But like being bitter, being angry at the world, being angry at me. You want to be angry at me? Fucking be angry at yourself. Sort your shit out. Instead of attacking me, instead of laughing at me. Like those people that laugh at you, and I say this from experience now, those people that laugh at you, at your dreams, at your goals, right? There is because they're too fucking afraid to take a chance on themselves. Because
yeah.
they didn't chase their dreams. And look at them, what are they doing? Are they happy?
Not really, no,
No. Why? What?
because
Hate their
because you,
jobs? Hate their life?
yeah, most likely because you do something that they haven't done in life and
They
stuff, and you
made
took the risk.
they made a decision.
Yeah,
This is the thing. I've been doing this for years now, and you know, I talk about how it doesn't work. There's no progress, etc. Right? There is progress. It's not the progress that I want, but it's something.
yeah,
Right? I've gotten better in that time. I've gotten more confident in that time. But what I've noticed is that people only ever just seem to focus on the results. They don't focus on the process. They don't give a shit until you've, you know, shut out gold. That's all they
yeah,
care about, right? And this is why you got to get like insular. You got to get into your cocoon and focus on you.
yeah.
There was a video that I saw yesterday from fucking Casey Neistat of all people. Just you know, I mean, look, say what you want about that guy, good and bad, successful for sure. He was on this show and he basically just said like I'm paraphrasing, but like it has to be all about you. because that's the root of like originality. If you're trying to be like anyone else, if you know someone's already done it before, and the original is always going to be better. Moreover, it's got to be you putting out what makes sense to you, what feels right to you, because nothing else matters. You know, people are always going to be comparing you to other people. People are always going to be judging everything you do. Everyone's got a fucking opinion.
Yeah,
But, you
definitely.
know, I think the most, and I always say this, like the most important thing is, well, what do you think? When you look at your writing, what do you think? Not what does this person think? What does this person? No, what do you think? Is
Think.
it better than 6 months ago, a year ago? You got really excited about your twist there. In your mind, you think this is brilliant.
Yeah,
So it's fucking brilliant. Go for it, you know?
yeah, definitely.
And if it doesn't hit with people, then I mean that was never the original goal anyway. Like you want to reach people, sure, but like whenever us creatives create anything, it has to be about us creating what makes sense for us. It can't be about, oh, I'm trying to create stuff that makes is good for anyone else. Because you're no longer a creative, now you're just a servant.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's you're just serving people what they want rather than doing what you want. I get this a lot where people will be like, Christian, you should focus on this. You should do this. You should cut your hair. You should dye your hair. You should move to a foreign country. You should get this job. You should get that. Da, da, da. If I'd have listened to those people, man, I'd be fucking miserable. And I'm not saying that that I'm above advice. I can't take advice. Of course I can. But again, it has to be what resonates with me. So if I
yeah,
hear something, like information come my way, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll sit on it. I'll sleep on it. You know. And sometimes I'll take it on board, sometimes not. With your writing, I mean, I think it's like you know you've been doing this a while now.
yep,
I think you're beginning, from what I can see, to tell people not necessarily to fuck off, but you're not letting it affect your work. Like it's not nice. It's never nice to hear negative shit. I get that, man. I still feel it all these years later. But the way I always look at it is, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to act on what you're saying.
yeah,
You know, so when people are like, give up, kill yourself, I'm like, nah.
yeah,
Like, you know, I hear what you're saying. It's not nice to hear, but I'm just not going to do that. And that, funnily enough, pisses people off more than anything when you just won't do what they say because it's, you know, it's not The Sims. You can't like fucking control people and be like, you know, and then that nothing pisses people off more than if you keep doing what you're doing despite in despite of them. I don't know. People are weird, man. Another thing as well. Oh, another thing that Casey Neistat guy said, which I think is really important. It has to be all about you because most people don't give a flying fuck what you're doing. Not
yeah,
because it's not good or because it doesn't deserve attention or any of that. It's just they're too caught up in themselves to care about what you're doing. However, every now and again, people are looking for things. So when people find your work, they're looking for something
yeah,
that resonates for them. They'll find stuff in your work that even you haven't found, right? And you're going to find that over the years. The more you publish your work, the more you put it out there into the world, people are going to find stuff in that, and it's going to blow your mind because you'll be like, "Oh wow, I didn't think that." You know, I mean, you can play it off cool and be like, "Wow, it's open to interpretation," or you can be like, "Yeah, no, I just had this idea." I've seen it with like musicians before where a fan will come up to them and be like, "Oh, I got this, 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 and this from the song," and they're like, "Well, it was just a breakup song about this thing, you know."
yeah,
But they're like, "If it works for you, it works for you," kind of thing, you know. Let's move it on. You're writing a script for a crime thriller called "The Murderer Who Sat in the Moonlight," which I would
yep.
argue is a bad idea after you've just committed a murder. But okay, what's the story about?
Yeah, so basically, the log line behind the story is basically about this true crime writer called David Wallace, so who finds his biggest fan is a cold-blooded killer who named Noah Kent and stuff, and obviously, And so basically, it's a suspense psychological thriller stuff, and basically it's set in this interview prison room in Los Angeles, set in the 1980s, of course, and stuff. And they're having this conversation about this murder that's taking place of this female and her daughter and stuff. But this is all part of the twist, which I won't reveal. But both the men and stuff. So the writer and the cobbler, they're connected to the same murder, but in their own way. But they don't know about each other's connection until the very end. That's where the big twist comes in. Basically, the story behind it is that they played like sort of the mind games with each other and stuff. So basically, the writer's there to get the answers about this murder. Hey, he's there to get because he wants to write this next bestseller book for that because to get out there for the whole Los Angeles to see. And the only way to do that is that he came to his prison room. This guy wanted to say, I'm your biggest fan, I have a story for you that will blow Los Angeles, that will put Los Angeles on the map and stuff. So he comes to does this interview, and it basically another guy, the cold-blooded killer, his personality is meant to be like a narcissist and stuff, and he also loves using pop culture references, which is I have referenced a lot of pop culture figures in my crime fiction. So like I referenced on Michael Jackson, the classic horror stuff, as well as infamous murders. And he actually is obsessed with his murders. And Charles Manson is one of the key figures that he loves, because the other theme is about media sensation and how the media can manipulate certain crimes.
Fascinating, man. I love when it's set as well. I think that's really clever to set it in the 80s. Best of luck with that. One thing that I found interesting when I was reading about this is that the story is being written for the theatre. So, given the fact that your overall goal is to write scripts for films,
Yep.
I guess this is a twofold one. Why the focus on writing a theatre script, and how does writing a script for a play differ to writing a film script or a book?
Yeah, actually, I really like the question. So basically, going back to last year's stuff. So basically, before the theater, so I did like this course which related to theater as well. It's like part of I did this course at the Natural Youth Theatre, which is also in London as well. And it's like a course that where it's an introduction to theater writing, and to get you into that field. And originally, at that time, I thought to myself, you know what? I have no interest in theater. I want to just leave this course because I want to actually get something with my work, get my creative vision out. But then I thought to myself, wait, you know what? Let me be patient and let me just see the end of this course. Who knows? I may change my mind. And what actually really kind of kept me there, motivated me, was that each person who was on the course, because you had to be what's called you had to apply for it, be selected on the course. So only about I think 7, 8 people were on the course who were also into aspiring writers as well. And basically, and our final task was to basically they said, hey, you have to write the script and you submit it like a part of an assignment as well of your choice, and they'll give you what's called constructive feedback to prove it. And I thought to myself, wait, okay, I love storytelling. Let me think, well, what should I do? And this is where the crime fiction idea. I thought, wait, this is my chance to get the story, out there. So what I do, I remember non-stop walking day and night on the story to create the suspense and stuff. I remember like when we submit the script and they gave each person constructive feedback on, what went well and how proof worked. And when I looked at it, because originally, funny enough, the original idea I had was, hey, I'm gonna have this, I think I was gonna have at least 4 characters, and because I thought this crime fiction, I thought it was gonna be set somewhere, that it'll be set in his house, and he'll go to a prison interview. But when I got the feedback, they said one of the feedback was, wait. I thought, wait, it can work as a 2-character, story. So basically, you have 2 characters in one room and stuff. And I thought, wait, that actually can work, because I remember, it worked with a film I believe called Saw with James Wan. That was set, I believe, in one room, and I believe 2 characters to the whole film. I thought, wait, I can actually get a lot of suspense out of it, and surprisingly, that worked. And then what I did was I thought, okay, so I know what I'm gonna do, because I thought to myself, okay, I'm gonna get into films. I'm going to, I'm a movie guy. I love, visual stuff and stuff. So I thought, wait, how the steps to get there? Then I remember they or one day I think at the end of the course and stuff, that where they give you and like they give you resources, where to look and where to apply, or where you could get yourself out there. I remember one of the things I came across and was actually the Royal Court Theatre, which is also in London and stuff. And I did my obviously did my research, looked at, and on their submission page said, what, if you have a story to tell, if you have a script that you think that will be compelling interesting and your vision and you want to get your vision, you try to submit your script to roll call theater as well, and they give and basically after I think and they'll get back to you. That's what I like about it. They get back to you regardless of what the outcome is. So it's not like, oh, we're just gonna ignore you, throw your work away if we don't. They'll get back to give you feedback and stuff because the beauty of it, you can send as many scripts as you want, so they actually care about you as an individual rather than being the case we're gonna turn you away. We don't care about your work after one rejection.
You know, the interesting thing about theatre as well is like I like yourself. I'm not a fan of theatre. I don't. I respect it. Obviously, that's where acting and film work and everything comes from. So I respect it. I respect the field. I just don't personally like it, and I've been given crap for that over the years. People are like, "Oh, how can you be an actor if you don't like it?" And it's like, it's a
Yeah,
different medium. Like, I actually consider theatre acting and on-screen acting to be completely different disciplines.
yeah,
And if people, if they do their fucking research, they'll know that early movie stars were all theatre actors who had to adapt and change how they did acting to fit on screen. Because obviously in theatre, everything is projection. You're playing to the audience, right? And you'll notice this in very early films, like from the 30s, 40s, when they were just like kind of getting into this, or maybe the 20s even. They're like they're like projecting across a room. They're quite loud. They're almost like too loud, and it makes it feel unrealistic, right? And there was two reasons for this, right? One, they're theatre actors. That's what they were trained to do. So they had to kind of learn to descale it. Secondly, because they didn't have, like on body microphones, stuff like that. If you'll notice, a lot of these scenes tend to take place in like a big room, like I don't know, like a big living room or something like that. And there'll usually be like a big flower pot or a bouquet in the middle of like on the top of a table. That's where the microphone's hidden.
yeah.
And that's why they're projecting, right? And I always found that fascinating. But then, obviously, as you see over the years, maybe from the 50s, 60s onwards, it really starts to kind of like take form. Now, what I found interesting about theatre, I've never done a play. I thought about it. I I don't like watching plays, so I don't know how I would really fare doing a play. But like yourself, I have thought about it from like the perspective of learning. People have said like, well, if you do this, it can be a gateway to other things. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but like I've spent so many years like doing things I didn't want to do just so that I would have a chance of doing the things I want to do. It to me, it feels like just a large deviation from what I want to do. I don't want to be a theatre actor.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do it. Because the thing is, it takes time and effort that I'm personally just not willing to put in for something that I'm not passionate about. Like it's difficult to explain that to people sometimes. But if I'm not passionate about it, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like I'll still bust my ass, but it's very, very difficult if your heart's not in it. Whereas, I love on screen and TV and everything else, and I give it my everything. I'll be there like 12 hours a day, every day of the week because I fucking love it. But, when it's something I don't love, like I'm counting the seconds away and it's not a place you want to be in. One thing I've also noticed about theatre, which I find very weird, is that theatre in the acting world is like really esteemed. Like if you see people talking about Shakespeare and stuff like that, like some of the world's best actors really regard it as like the creme de la creme, the whatever you want to call it, like the highest possible honor an actor could receive other than getting maybe an Oscar.
Yeah.
Which again, I get. A lot of it comes from if you've had classical training. Other parts of it come from just an actor's motivations. Love of theatre in general. But the entry for theatre is so easy. And don't get me wrong, there's a big difference between your local play production versus, big ones. But I've seen, and I won't name names, but I've seen like big production, like super successful productions, right? And they're paying like maybe a little bit above minimum wage, basically minimum wage, right? And I'm like, fuck me. So you're telling me I could just audition tomorrow, get a bit part, maybe even get a bigger role in one of the UK's leading fucking theatre productions,
Yeah.
and I'm barely getting minimum wage, and I'm busting all my ass and doing all this, and you have to like a lot of time you have to travel around the UK as well to do it. So you spend like say 3-4 weeks at one place and move on to the next. Like it just doesn't fucking seem worth it, you know. And like and again, it kind of lends more. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. It kind of boosts my argument that like if you're gonna do that, you have to love this to do it and do it well, you know. And the last thing they would want as well is an actor whose heart is not really in it, you
Yeah.
know. And every time I review it, that's what I come back to. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not fit. Yeah, no, no, no. And again, I'm so sick of people telling me this. You should keep an open mind. You should try. You should try. I'm like, well, every time I look into it, something tells me I shouldn't. I don't know. I just find that interesting because I will agree as well. I've heard the same thing about. I guess my point with this is that there's a lot to be learned from theatre, from a writing perspective, from direction, pacing, acting, everything. There's so much to learn, but it is a different medium. It's totally different,
Yeah, definitely.
and let it be known, I have all the respect in the world for it. It's just not for me. But they always say never. You never know. You might see me on a stage one day. Who the fuck knows? Crazier things have happened. I've said this is never going to happen, and then the thing happens. So at this point, I'm like, fuck it. You mentioned you've taken like that theatre course. Have you ever taken in or studied any other like sort of writing workshops, classes? Were they useful? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, basically, that's actually, I'm glad you actually asked that question. Basically, for me, I'll say, after I dropped on my master's course, because obviously I thought, you know what, university setting is not for me, because all that course wasn't for me and stuff. That originally my other plan was, okay, before I, discovered theater love, I said, okay, I'm gonna go back to university, but this time I'm gonna start, study writing and stuff. But then I thought to myself, wait, what am I doing? Because if I go back to university for another master course, I'm paying all that money just to what 1 day a week, just to what learn, and then what am I gonna gain from it? Then I thought to myself, hang away. I came across this online resource and stuff called it's called the masterclass course as well, and you can literally learn about anything. And obviously in my case, the creative field like art, filmmaking, storytelling, and I was looking at it, I thought, wait, maybe I could get something from here because it has videos, workbooks, and like guides on to get you started and stuff. And I basically and I tell people it literally changed my life forever when I got there because I could go my own pace. I could learn whatever I want and stuff from actual. And these are like videos by people like for example they have video pre-recorded videos like David Lynch, James Cameron. Like you're learning from actual but who's like had the struggles and made it in life and stuff as a motivation because it gets you it gets you like get you in that creative mindset whenever you feel like, oh, I don't have this belief, I can't do it. It shows you can because I remember related to this masterclass again. I remember I think it was James Cameron actually. I remember he actually tells people the story. He was on the course was saying that when he started the first we were the first Terminator film, he was actually broke, living in his car. He literally had nothing in his in his wallet. And when he did, I think Terminator, he had this dream vision. It was a nightmare he had and stuff. So he bet literally everything on his nightmare. And he thought, is I gonna make him or is gonna break him, put him into more depth? And what I loved about this guy's story, no matter what, even the people told him, wait, you should go get in, 9 to 5. You should go to McDonald's clean. But he was determined to get this thing done. And look, he's now one of the biggest directors out there, I believe, in the whole of, I think Hollywood, even the world. Every single person knows about Cameron.
It's what these are the stories I think about all the time. The amount of times as well when I get down and out about my life, and then I like hear these stories, and but I don't know because part of me is like, well, that was a different world.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot harder now, even though there's more resources and opportunities. I feel like it's even harder now. I don't know, but anything is possible. Anything, truly anything is possible, and It was funny as well. You bring up Terminator. I literally was reading backstage stories about Terminator 1 this morning, so let's trade. That film didn't have any permits. They were just fucking driving around LA trying to get iconic shots of the city
Yeah.
and do this stuff, and they just didn't have permits to do any of it. And at one point they were pulled over by the cops and they were like, "Oh, do you have a permit to film here?" And they lied and said that they were UCLA like students doing a short film, and it worked. They're like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know we had to do that," and just let them on their way. Imagine that, and then like they fucking that B movie becomes like one of the biggest films of the year,
Yeah,
arguably of
yeah,
the '80s. Like, just I mean, I've said this before as well. Like, I think it's always worth taking a bet on yourself, especially when everyone around you thinks you're crazy. Because again, imagine that. Imagine if he did just, oh, I'll just work at McDonald's. Oh, I'll just get a 9 to 5. Screw this dream I have of, directing movies. I'll just do what everyone else tells me to do, because their lives are going so well. Like, it's just, do you know what I mean? Like, not to sound like a dick, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just think that this, okay, this will, like, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, I know you, but like for everyone else listening, the reason why creatives like Nur and I trap back at that and go, well, no, actually, we're going to do this, or why James Cameron said no and decided to do, follow his dreams, is because when people ask that question, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you just get a 9 to 5? Because that road, it's never been about what's safe or what's easy, right? And to be honest, those fields are not safe or easy. They are maybe safer. You've got more of a chance of security, but never 100%. But more importantly, like, you're locked in. That's your life. That's it. That's all it'll ever be. 9 to 5,
yeah,
Monday to Friday. Fucking hell, I did that recently. I took a job on, ended up being a toxic workplace. It is what it is. But
yeah,
one of the first things I thought, like 2 days in, is I'm stuck here. This is it. Like, yeah, I'll keep trying to do the things outside of work, but like, right now, this is it. And people often define you by your work as well. Like, so the amount of times I get this question, oh, what do you do for a living? And it's like, I work 0 hours contracts, I do hospitality. People define you by your work, and they shouldn't, because I don't think any human being should be defined by what they do for a living. Like, it's neither here nor there. Like, we are multi-layered, we are multifaceted. you know don't judge me or define me by what I am. Judge or define me by what I want to be. Like, that's, I know exactly where I want to be, and for whatever reason the universe is not giving it to me, but damn well I'm gonna keep chasing it anyway. I think that's the mindset we have to have, because it's understanding that anything that isn't that won't make sense for us. And it has nothing to do with being better or worse than anyone else. Because I see that argument sometimes. People are like, "Oh, well, you're too good for this job," and it's like, no, it's just I've done them as well, and I was miserable. So it's like, if you want me to be miserable and to off myself, then fine. But I'm not. I don't want to do that, because I would like to be happy and enjoy my life. So but I've been there. I've done it, and I remember having a marketing job years ago, and the pay was alright, it was secure, but I was just miserable and bored shitless and not doing anything. Corporate Christian was depressed. You know, so we got to focus on doing the things that are right for us, that make sense for us, because you never know where they can lead. And I'll say, I've learned so much through chasing my dreams and experienced so much that I probably never would have experienced had I not done it. And I think for any creative who's thinking about giving up, who's struggling, like, just keep that in mind, man. The journey is about you and you only. You know.
yeah.
What has writing taught you about life?
I think what writing has taught me, actually, basically taught me quite a few things about life as well. Because it's like all my life and stuff. I think I mentioned this, before. Like, I was struggle with mental health and stuff, and obviously, going through my mental health challenges, especially going back to I think yeah, last year, 2024 as well. And obviously, I tell people this, that was probably one of my lowest, and I guess when you're in a dark place and you don't see you don't see any other way. You only see one way. And your judgment's clouded and everything. And I thought at that point, I think I just had had about everything. I did. I couldn't. I was a point where in my life where I didn't think I could make it as well. And then I think what I did, I told myself, wait, you know what? What if I can't express my words, to people? If therapy doesn't work for me, maybe writing is my best therapy. I always love storytelling as well. So what I told myself, I remember one day I got my, notebook and pen, and whatever I was feeling at the moment, whether I was, depressed or going through, a negative mindset, I would write down my feelings, but in a fictional characters and fictional stories and stuff.
Mm.
And I think, and this is, I believe it. This is an interesting fact before obviously the theater, this was actually the start of the crime, where the crime fiction started from. Because I had the idea in the back of my mind and stuff, and I was writing down my notebook pen. Well, you know what? Like, I can express myself in these fictional characters. So I told people the true crime writer David Wallace, that he's a character I resonate with, because that's why I created the character to have someone who has his own mental health issues as well, because he's gone through his own stuff. And then in a fictional way, I can express my emotions through his dialogue, his words, like to get my basically words I wanted to get out, but I couldn't to people because either they would listen to me or they dismiss my emotions. I thought, maybe my characters, my stories could understand me, and this is what I want to do. And that's why I remember, like, the other story I have is a autism love story as well, and that's going to be like a monologue. So that's going to be like one character, but in one room. And short summary, what that's going to be about is that he's going to be writing letters to his lifelong love interest, who's like slowly becoming distant. And the whole message about that is that the universe brought them together, but also apart. And also, what the message about is, as well as giving people voice on, the people who are dealing with autism a voice and on the spectrum. The other part I wanted to do was that the themes is that it also deals with themes, obviously, of heartbreak and especially closure as well. And I think I mentioned this to people, that I know everyone has their own perspective on what closure, some people say you find closure within yourself, you don't need closure and stuff. But for me, I think it's interesting, because from my experience and stuff, because I think I'm, probably mentioned before that last year I went things, who was this person's close with me, and we ended things around. Things ended without closure and stuff, and I would never, obviously I know I would never get that closure of what went wrong and stuff, and why it ended stuff. And I remember, like, 9 months, it literally broke me down, thinking, well, all these scenarios, what went wrong, and I told myself, you know what? If no one's gonna understand this, maybe I could get this into my story of what closure really is.
So I've never spoken about this, but closure. Here's my take on this.
Yeah,
I think in instances like that, the reason you don't get closure is because if you did, you wouldn't want to hear what the answer is.
yeah,
It
yeah,
wouldn't help you.
yeah.
I remember getting closure about this girl that I dated many, many, many years ago, and I was tore up about her. Like, it took me like a year and a half to go over her, and years and years and years and years later, like so many years later, that doesn't matter anymore. Like, it's like, I mean, I then find out things that I didn't want to know, and I also discovered like what the type of person they are, and like who I really was dating, and it was really disappointing. It shattered my like understanding of the situation. Like we were just kids as well. Like, that has to be taken into consideration. But like, you look at that and you're like, was it a lie? Was I wrong in how I felt? And it's like, no, how you feel is never wrong. That's how you felt. That's your true emotions. But what you think about the reality of the situation can be totally different. And because you're not in that person's head, you don't know. You have an idea, you can review your actions and stuff. But like, ultimately, the response is often very disappointing, particularly because the thing is, like, I think mature, reasonable people will give each other closure and will make the effort to do that, right? But
Yeah,
when people aren't like that, when they have shitty intentions, when they're immature, when they're this, that, and the other, they won't give you that because the reality is they're doing something far worse than you can imagine. They're doing things that would disappoint you to the point where it would destroy this memory of this person that you have. So just consider
yeah,
that the next time, like you or anyone else here is struggling with closure. Just think like, what is it I'm actually looking for? What's the thing I want? What I need? Would I actually get it from this person? From the because the thing is, in situations like that, often it's empty. You might get closure, but it will be like an empty feeling. It won't give you anything. The greatest extreme example I can think of from a storytelling perspective is in GTA 4. There's a storyline where basically the main character has this. He's been chasing this villain from Europe to America, and he has a decision. And in game, you can either choose to kill him or you can choose to let him go. Now, bear in mind, like he's told awful stories about what this guy did in the war and just like how much he wants to kill this guy, how he's ruined his life, all of this stuff, right? If you, what's interesting about it is in both instances, it doesn't give him any closure, but it's worse if you pick the kill option.
yeah,
Because if you pick the living option, it's like his cousin is because his cousin's there with him, and he basically says to him like, "Well, you know, how do you feel?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm so annoyed. I chased this guy for all these years, and I just let him go, and like I just need some time, and you know." But his cousin's reassuring him like this is a good thing, like he's made a good choice, regardless. And he's just like, I just need time. If you choose the kill option, his cousin almost mocks him in a way. He's like, so how did it feel? Like he's judged him for doing this. He's like, so did that make you feel any better? And Nico's the name of the character. He's annoyed and he's kind of like, I don't know how I feel. After all these years, I thought this would bring me some closure, some comfort, or something. And he basically, in not so many words, says that it's an empty feeling. It brought him nothing, and that arguably is worse.
yeah,
And this is kind of my whole point with closure. Is I think that like you really have to consider like what it is you're looking for because it's your life. Everyone's different. Everyone has different motivations. Often the answers are like really petty, simple things. If it's a relationship or a friendship or something like that, it could just be like you outgrew each other. It could be they don't love you no more.
yeah.
And that sucks, but it's like you got to move on. You just got to like do your thing. Life goes on.
Keep moving forward.
Literally, I mean, I remember when shit broke down with my first relationship and I was devastated. It took me a year and a half to get over this person. And even after the fact, I was still bitter about things and I wasn't really fully over it. But things changed when my life changed, when I was no longer thinking about it. That's when it got better. And then you get to a point where like you just don't think about it at all. And then it's like a distant memory. It almost doesn't feel real anymore. And that's the nature of these issues. Like you'll think about them sometimes, but you won't feel anything. It'll be like empty, you know. Anyway, here we are. That's all my questions I've got for you, at least from writing. How do you feel? Talk to me.
Yeah, I think it was yeah really interesting and really intriguing to talk about my creative writing and the vision behind obviously the crime fiction as well. We're looking forward to getting it out there and hopefully connecting with people.
Would you say that you've connected with people already? Like, has it been received well?
I actually had a really interesting experience actually quite recently about that because I remember and I'll tell this, but it's like for example. yesterday and stuff. Basically, there was a basically it was an aspiring. This was she was an aspiring writer. Like she wanted to basically like was gonna make her dreams a reality and stuff. I remember I saw like what it is. So I reached out to this person. And I gave motivational advice what worked for me. And I remember she replied. She said I actually inspired her to chase her dreams and to write again because she was dealing with self doubt. And I know what it's like because when no when other people don't believe in you and think that and the only person you really have is yourself and stuff. And one thing I've a motive what I think I've a motive sorry what I'll stick by is that you're here to make your dreams and goals a reality, not focus on pleasing the world. And so basically, at the end of the day, if you write that story, write that script, make that film, create that vision and story that you want, and so, and guarantee you, your audience, people who will love that, they will find you. Because I remember it's like for example with social media stuff, you post it up there, and think, oh, I have to please every single. I remember one time when I first got my what's called the work out there on Instagram and stuff to make it aware. I thought, oh, not many people liking this. What am I doing wrong and stuff? But then I thought myself, it took obviously at the end of 2024 for me to finally find the right audience and the right community.
You know the irony as well about that is, and this is kind of what Casey Neistat was saying as well. It's like, and also that famous quote in that film, is it Field of Dreams? Like, if you book them, they will come. You gotta put your work out there and not
Yeah,
think at all about who's watching or listening. You just got to put it out there. Put it out there like you're already a megastar. The minute you start like you said, you start thinking about what people want, like it affects the work. And if it affects the work, it might influence it in a negative way. And it needs to be your original creative vision, untouched by people's expectations, feelings, thoughts, whatever. So I say to you, Nur Sharif, the motivator, keep doing what you're doing, man. You've got something here. It's exciting. Keep pushing it, man. And before you know it, we'll see you making the big bucks.
yeah. Thank you. Really appreciate it, man. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for watching and listening to the Christian Reeve podcast. Go check out Nur Sharif's work. And thanks for appearing on the show, Nur. Be safe, be well, and I'll see you all in the next one.